Hey guys, I recently published a blog about action over and third-party action over exclusions, and I got lots of questions regarding it. I also put it on LinkedIn, had a lot of direct messages about it. People are confused about it, and I don't blame you. I reread it. It's pretty wordy. Action over and third-party action over exclusions could make people kind of dizzy, trying to figure out how that affects their general liability coverage. So I figured, hey, why not post a video, kind of try to break it down in terms that people can understand. Here's some of the key questions I got. Number one, what's the difference? Number two, wouldn't a work comp policy cover an employee injury? Great question. Number three, what are some things I can do to make sure that I don't have exclusions on my policy? So action over exclusions are common in the construction world. And if you look at your policy, pull out your general liability, look at your forms list. If you see anything about an action over or third party action over exclusion, you've got to understand what it means and how it prohibits your coverage. What exactly is it? Well, let's say you're a general contractor and you hire a subcontracting company to come on your job site. You're the general, you have a sub coming on doing the framing. The subcontractor's employee sustains an injury on the job. That subcontractor turns the claim in to the subcontractor's workers' compensation policy. Remember, I'm not going to get too deep into work comp, but work comp is no fault. It's going to provide medical, lost time, disability if it's needed. It's going to provide that coverage at a no fault situation. So coverage applies. The employee's covered for work comp. There are cases when an employee can sue an employer for work comp related injury, but in most cases they cannot. Statutory law prohibits it because of the fact that work comp is no fault. Coverage kicks in. The employee cannot directly sue their employer for a work comp claim. So what do? The employee turns around and sues the general contractor because the general contractor has involvement on the project that this employee sustained an injury. General contractor turns around, turns it into their general liability carrier. Liability carrier says, no, there's an action over exclusion on your policy. We are not going to cover this lawsuit. General contractor is probably thinking, well, what the heck? The subcontractor, I made sure they had work comp. The work comp policy covered the employee's injury, but that doesn't stop them from seeking further action in regards to a lawsuit against the general contractor, or in some cases, even the property owner. Property owner could get sued in those cases. Now, third party action over, and people ask, what's the difference? Okay, let's say this situation happens and the employee sues the property owner or the general contractor, same thing, right? Well, the property owner and the general contractor, they say, well, this isn't my responsibility. I'm not the employer. So they turn around and turn that back over to the subcontractor. So now all of a sudden the employee's suit or demand, whatever it is for damages or for the injury, indirectly comes back around to the employer, even though they couldn't sue the employer directly. And that's where the third party action over exclusion comes into play. So let's say that subcontractor has a third party action over exclusion on their general liability policy. Well, their general liability carrier is not going to respond to that loss. Now, isn't work comp responsible? Well, sure. If an employee sustains an injury, the employer's work comp policy. And some people have asked, what about employer's liability? Let's say an employee gets injured, they can't work, they lose time, they can't get paid, they support a family, that family turns around and sues the employer. Well, that's where the employer's liability comes into place to protect the employer against that type of lawsuit coming in from a related party to the injured person. So action over, very, very important. People say, well, what can I do? If you don't think insurance companies write their policies to protect themselves and their paper and their financial interests, then you're wrong, because of course they do. Insurance companies are for profit. But that doesn't mean that you can't negotiate your coverage. So if you have the right agent, the right broker, and you understand these things, and you understand what to look out for, because I've said it again, and I'll say it a million times over, no two general liability parties are the same. I guarantee you there's lots of contractors that are walking around out there with third party or even action over exclusions. Remember, action over being the broader of the exclusion, third party action over being a little more defined. But you're walking around with those exclusions and you don't even know it. We have people call us all the time. They're rate shopping, not something we love. We're looking at the best financial interest, the protection of our clients to put together an insurance program. Well, they're comparing two policies based on premium only. That's a big time mistake. You don't know what's in your policy. Action over exclusions could really crush your company. They could crush your business, especially if you don't know they're there. Now, people might say, I have contracts. My contract states that I'm not responsible for a subcontractor's employee's injury. Well, great, but that doesn't stop them from suing you. And if you have an action over exclusion or back to a third party action over exclusion, your carrier's not even going to defend you in the suit. So forget the fact that there's no indemnity there. They're not going to pay out if you lose. They're not even going to pay or assign an attorney. So that's going to be on you. It's going to be out of your pocket. And when we talk about the total cost of risk, well, negotiate your coverage, because let's say it costs you 10% more in your insurance premium to remove your action over exclusion. So let's say your premium's $25,000. Now it's going to cost you $27,500. In a loss where you're not covered, let's say you have to pay just $100,000 in legal fees, which is, it can add up really quick. Your total cost of risk just increased by $72,500 because you didn't take the time to negotiate, or you didn't want to spend the money on the additional premium. So look at your policy forms, pull your policy, look for third party action over, look for action over. Understand that it's something that that could really affect your company, especially in the construction world where lawsuits fly and injuries happen. Also, as a general contractor, if you're the one who's prime on the contract, it's your client, you have a responsibility to protect that client too. So you don't want subcontractors or other third parties coming on your job suing a property owner because you didn't have the proper protection on your general liability policy. I hope this video helps. If you have any questions, you can email me at mike@foagency.com or give me a call directly, 858-384-1507. Check your forms list. See if you have third party or action over exclusions. If you want to read the nitty gritty about it, like I said, they're pretty wordy, but check out the blog on my website, also on my LinkedIn page. And please remember, if you like my videos, if they're helpful, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the little notification bell so that you're made aware of future videos that I release. You can comment here on YouTube. I respond to all of them. And thanks so much for watching. I hope this video helps. Take care.